Now let's get some analysis now. Victor Shih is the author of Coalitions of the Weak, Elite Politics in China from Mao's Stratagem to the Rise of Xi. He is an associate professor at the University of California, San Diego, and he joins us now live from Seattle. Victor, thank you for joining us. The Politburo Standing Committee is, of course, the apex of power in China, and they have just been unveiled by Xi Jinping. You have Li Qiang, the Shanghai party boss, who will be China's next premier. You have Zhao Leji, you have Wang Huning, Cai Qi, the Beijing party boss, Ding Xuexiang, Li Shi, the Guangdong party secretary. What do you make of this lineup, Victor?
Thanks for having me. So I think really this has been a norm-busting party congress where a number of internal norms in the party has just been abandoned completely. The age norm abandoned with Li Keqiang, Wang Yang being most likely forced into retirement before the age of 68. And then also, very likely you will have someone without any state council experience serving as the premier of China. That is something that has not happened since the early 1980s with the appointment of Zhao Ziyang as the premier of China. Of course, the Chinese economy and the state council itself are so much more complex today compared to the 1980s. And so I think, not having that experience is going to make, at least initially, the job of running China's state machinery that much more challenging for the new premier of China.
And Li Qiang to be the next premier, elevated to the Politburo Standing Committee despite his, what many have called shambolic handling of the COVID outbreak in Shanghai. What's the explanation there?
Yeah, I don't think that really needs an explanation, so to speak. China is not a democracy. And really, as we have seen throughout the proceedings at the party Congress, only one man's opinion matters. So, with this new crop of Politburo Standing Committee member, we see, for example, the chief of staff or the private secretaries from three stages of Xi Jinping's career. So you have to remember that Cai Qi served as, a close advisor of Xi Jinping from their days back in Fujian province. Then, of course, you have Li Qiang being his secretary in Zhejiang, and then Ding Xuexiang, his secretary in Shanghai. So these are people who know him very well, whom he trusts a great deal, and they are chosen for these top level positions because of that. So really their job performance, regardless of what the international media think of it, regardless of even what a lot of Chinese people think of it, really is quite secondary here.
I also wanted to ask you about women in the party elite. Yesterday, you tweeted, Victor, saying, sorry, only 11 women out of 205 Central Committee members is really sad, especially for a Communist Party. We've been tabulating then the Politburo, 24 Politburo members and not a single woman confirmed. What does all this say about the CCP?
I think this is really quite tragic because, of course, we know a lot of very capable women in China. And even in the party, there are a lot of very capable women cadre. But yet at every level, they're marginalized. Occasionally, a few will break through the ranks, so to speak, and rise to senior level positions, but they remain very, very rare. Traditionally, at least since the 1980s, there has been one woman in the Politburo. But this time, yet again, we don't see any women at the Politburo level. I think that will actually have some long-lasting impact on gender equality in the party because you're not going to have this example of a woman cadre at a senior level. And also, there's not going to be a female patron who can potentially help some of the younger women get ahead in their careers. So I think, potentially women cadres are going to be even more marginalized in the party.
So many norms being broken with this party Congress. And let's look at Xi Jinping himself. Xi Jinping himself breaking precedent to become party leader yet again. This is norm breaking. This is history making. What comes next? How will Xi use that power? And what does it mean for China?
Yeah, so I think by breaking the two-term norm that was established, after the Tiananmen Square massacre, really, I think Xi Jinping is setting himself up for lifetime tenure. In the short term, of course, it actually creates greater certainty because there's really not going to be any contestation for who's holds the top position. Obviously, it's going to be Xi Jinping as long as he is alive. However, over the coming years, as his health deteriorates, and
Mm.
just simply because he's a human being and we all age, we all get old. Um, I think the sense of uncertainty is going to build. And then also going forward, every time that he disappears from public view for longer than a week or two, there's going to be all kinds of rumors. It could trigger major sell-offs in the market, et cetera, et cetera. Remember, this China is the second largest economy in the world and actually has the largest financial system in the world by asset under management by banks and the stock market. So, this kind of one man rule and the entire stability and prosperity of the country depending on one person over time is going to generate some uncertainties.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty when you have so much power centralized in one individual. And today was all about Xi Jinping, just further consolidating his power, packing the standing committee with Xi allies. What about the next leader? Is there any indication, any signal about succession plans for a Chinese leader after Xi?
I don't really see any
Yeah.
sense of it. I mean, certainly not at the Politburo Standing Committee level, which is what most of us had expected. I think this is an issue that we may begin to see some hint at the 21st Party Congress, and potentially not even then. I still have to look carefully through the Politburo list to see if there's anyone young enough. At first glance, it doesn't seem like anyone, even in the Politburo, is necessarily young enough to be a potential successor. Remember, basically, someone who can be a potential successor really is going to be the age 47 or younger at this point, and we really just don't see anyone like that on the horizon in your ranks.
Yeah. And also wanted to ask you about that remarkable moment yesterday when the former Chinese top leader, Hu Jintao, was led out of the hall as the party congress came to a close. We saw that official explanation that was posted on Twitter by Xinhua saying it was health related. Many other commentators think it's a power play or a Xi Jinping flex. What do you make of that incident and the symbolism of it?
Yeah, no, I think it was indeed a very notable event, and we really have not seen any kind of disruption to the proceedings like this pretty much ever, as far as I can recall. Not even during the Cultural Revolution did this kind of thing happen. Certainly not during the party congresses. Um, I don't. I'm not a believer of the pure health explanation, just
Mm.
because the last formal task that Hu Jintao had to perform was to vote for the new Central Committee, which he did minutes before this event took place. And if he had been feeling unwell, they could have, after his voting, they could have whisked him away and give him medical care. But yet he sat down. And it seemed like he sat down in a pretty stable manner, and then suddenly he was asked to leave. So really is very puzzling. He was sitting right next to Xi Jinping, so I'm not sure if he whispered something, said something to Xi Jinping that triggered this whole chain of events, or something else. But really, it is a very noteworthy event during the party congress.
Yeah, a noteworthy event, very symbolic as well. Victor Shih, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and appreciate your analysis, especially at this very moment. Keep it here. You're watching CNN, and still to come, we're going to have much more from Beijing as China's Communist Party unveils big changes to its leadership.